Hello all, welcome back to Xamarin Tech Talks. Hope everyone are doing good. So today we'll see one more concept in Xamarin Forms. So this concept is specifically about supporting orientations in Xamarin Forms. It's not that having a complete portrait or providing landscape and all. So this particular video is exclusively about having one specific page or specific pages in my application to have a different orientation rather than having the complete application orientation. Let's say my application is completely portrait. I just want to have few of the pages. I need to make it landscape. So this is basically my learning that I have gone through with certain requirements. So I just try to implement that particular thing. So I just came up across a few of the articles, and I tried to consolidate and all the stuff to have this implemented in iOS and Android. So let's just get started in implementing that. So for this scenario, I'm using plain Xamarin Forms application. I'm not going with any kind of MVVM architectures like Fresh MVVM or MVVM Cross or Prism or any other thing. So it's just like a normal Xamarin Forms application. So this is basically gives us a basic idea how to implement that, so it can be extended to your needs based on the MVVM framework that you use. So let's just get started with that. So I'm just going to create a new solution, Xamarin Forms app. So orientation sample. So let's move this to desktop. So it's creating a basic template. For achieving this particular thing, so we are just going with some kind of approach where we are trying to make the pages that want to show in a different orientation. Let's say make it like landscape. So we are going to create one specific interface which will be inherited to that particular pages, and we'll extend that functionality to the platform specific. Okay, so let's start in creating that. I'm just going to create a new interface. I'll make it eye orientation. And within that we'll be having one specific property which says like support orientation. So this will be of type device orientation, which is an array. We'll try to create that class. We'll make it a new file, and this is an enum, and we'll specify some values for that. We'll make it portrait, landscape. So these are the two enum properties that we have for this device orientation. In this example, I'm just going to deal with a pop-up, model pop-up, where I just want to have the orientation to be landscape. For that pop-up, on the normal pages should be portrait. So before that, we'll just check what is the orientation default, and we'll just change that. So I just want only portrait or upside down, but as of now I'm just going with portrait, and no specific changes I'm doing for Android. So let's create a normal page, Xamarin Forms page, and I'll make it as pop-up page, and let's create a small design there. So it just shows you a close button, that's it. Beyond that, there is nothing I'm dealing with. So I'm just going to have a button, center and expand, vertical options, the same, the center and expand, and we'll have a text. Click here to close. So this is a basic pop-up page, and here we'll be having a button which actually opens that. Click here to open pop-up. So this is a small design that we created. So, and we'll just have some events derived for those things. So let's try to have a clicked event. And I'm just creating open pop-up clicked, and we'll just create this in our page. So arcs as e, and we'll have navigation dot push model async, and we'll pass our pop-up page and the animation as true. Just give me a second. So let's start that. So we just created one specific event here, so which actually opens the pop-up, and we'll have one more event here in our pop-up which actually close that. So we'll make it close pop-up click, and we'll use this specific one to create the event. And we are just going with navigation dot pop async, pop model async, as we are dealing with model, so we'll make it true. So let's actually run this, so how it behaves. So it actually opened a pop-up. So this is what the small design that we have. And let's do the orientation process now. So as I said, like, we have just created one eye orientation interface which will be inheriting that to this particular pop-up page. And let's implement the interface. So if your page need to support both the portrait and the landscape, then you need to specify that, or else if you just want to have only portrait, you can also specify that property here. So make it, I want to have portrait and landscape. So if you want only portrait, just specify only portrait, sorry, landscape. So if you want both, you can just specify both. Done. So now we'll just move to platform specific code where we'll just define all those things exclusively, how it should behave for Android and how it should behave for iOS. So we'll start with iOS. So we'll just go to iOS project, and in my app delegate, so we have one specific method here which we need to override, which says what are the orientations that it actually should support. So we call it as override get support orientations. So this is the place where we need to specify how my orientation should behave. So if Xamarin dot forms dot application dot context dot current equals to null. So we are just little bit cautious and we are just verifying the null conditions, and forms dot application dot current dot main page not equals, so equals to null. So we'll be returning the portrait one. So the application is default as portrait. So if my values specific to current on the main page is null, then we are making it as portrait. So and the our main logic. So here I'm dealing with the complete main page, and from that I'm going in depth to the children. So and I'm identifying that particular page, so that based on that identification, so I'll be trying to manipulate the land orientation. So for that I'm just trying to create an object for to hold my current page, main page. If my navigation page not equals to null, and as we are dealing with pop-ups, so we have two specific stacks that we have in our navigation process. One is model stack and one is normal navigation stack. So when we are dealing with any model pop-ups, so all the pages will be registered and stored in model stack, and all the normal pages will be at navigation stack. So we are dealing with normal pop-up, so we'll be touching the model stack. So navigation page dot navigation dot model stack. You see here model stack, and I'll just try to show you one more thing, which is navigation stack. Both are kind of normal generic lists. Model stack count greater than 0. So only if I am having any specific pop-ups. So we are trying to get the specific page, orientation page, navigation page dot navigation dot model stack of 0. As of now I am having only one specific model stack, so I am just trying to deal with directly the index which I know. As we have inherited that particular page with I orientation, so I am trying to utilize that to identify the specific page. If orientation page not equals to null, we'll just do the logic. First we need to have our UI support orientation mask, interface support orientation mask. We'll make it as support mask equals to new for each orientation page dot device orientation, sorry, support orientation, and we'll try to loop that so that whatever that orientation support that we have specified there, we'll try to incorporate that. Switch, we'll use a switch here. If item, and the first condition would be case my device orientation, if it is only portrait, then I'm just making my support mask is UI interface orientation support mask dot portrait, and let's break the condition here. If my device orientation, device orientation is landscape, then we'll try to have the same thing and we'll just replace that with landscape. And by default we'll just either you can just make it as a portrait or you can just leave it as is, and we'll return support mask. So as we are just verifying the conditions exclusively here, so by default we are returning dot portrait. So only for specific conditions we are just trying to manipulate the orientations, otherwise we are just making it as by default portrait. So here we are trying to override our orientation mask, and after that we are trying to deal with the specific page that we are dealing with, and using our model stack we are trying to identify the eye orientation for which particular page it is being inherited, and using that within that particular page we have support orientation property where we are trying to map what are the specific orientations that I need to have. So based on that we are trying to check the condition. So let's see. So I think we can just get rid of this. By default it should be portrait. So this is done, and there is one specific trick that we need to do here to achieve that particular thing in iOS. So for that we are trying to create a renderer here which is of page renderer. I'll explain even why I need to have a renderer for this. So we'll just go with a general, an empty class. We'll make it main page renderer, and we are trying to inherit that particular thing from page renderer. And here we'll be overriding view did appear. So in that I'll be having a normal key which is of type ns string. So let's resolve this, and the key value is orientation. Okay, and we'll get the default portrait orientation value, so which is ns number of type int. So UI interface orientation, let's try to resolve this, dot portrait. So we'll be getting the specific value for that particular interface orientation. So UI device dot current device dot set value for key, and we are specifying the value and we are specifying the key. So the main intention for having this particular renderer is, let's say we have written some logic in app delegate to manipulate the orientation. So the orientation happens for the page, but whatever the parent page that we have, which actually opened the pop-up, should remain as is as a portrait. So for that we are trying to have a trick to get that particular scenario. So let's run this iOS application and we'll just see how it, sorry, we just need to register this renderer. So assembly, export renderer, so which is type of content page and type of main page renderer, and let's close this and let's resolve all this Xamarin forms, and this would be iOS. So we'll just run this. So I hope you understood why I have created this renderer. This is just to manipulate the parent page to remain as is as portrait. And here one more thing that I need to even make it as a note is like, so iOS default doesn't show directly as a landscape by default. So you need to tilt the device, you need to rotate the device so that it behaves in a landscape mode. So I am just clicking this particular pop-up, so it opened in portrait. So if I'll just make it rotate left, so that you see my page, whatever the model pop-up is of type landscape, and I'll just click on close and I'm still in landscape. So if I click on here, so you see my parent page has actually changed to portrait. So this is how that renderer, whatever that we have written here, is actually trying to manipulate that particular thing. So this is how we just do things in Android. So we'll just iOS, we'll just do that in Android too. The same way how we have dealt here. So we just need to go for a renderer here, because as we don't have any app delegate kind of thing which has internally which specifies the supported orientations and all. So we just need to tweak the page. So we just need to write a renderer. So we'll just create a class main page renderer, and it will be inherited from page renderer, and I am trying to override on window visibility changed. So this is the specific method I'm trying to override here. So where it actually deals with all the window things and the states. So initially we'll try to get the activity. So which we can get that from the context property. We'll try to resolve this. So we got our activity, and if my visibility is equals to view states dot gone. So we are dealing with two. One is visible and one is gone. Then my activity dot request orientation will be screen orientation. It will be portrait. Otherwise, if it is visible, then we'll be having a condition. So else if my visibility is equals to dot visible, then we'll have our orientation logic here. The same way that we have done for the complete orientation. So we are dealing with the same. I'm just trying to copy that from app delegate. So we'll just change few things here. So till here I'll just copy. So we don't want this support mask and all. So we'll remove this, and we'll change this activity dot request activity dot request orientation is equals to screen orientation. So we are dealing with portrait, right? So I'm just specifying portrait. Otherwise, I'm dealing with landscape. And by default, it will be. So as of now, for this, there won't be any return. So we'll try to ignore that. And there won't be any specific return types for this because it is completely void. So we are just trying to map only the orientation, and we'll make it by default as portrait. So let's try to go through this particular thing again. So I'm just going to create a renderer here, and on that I'm trying to override on visibility change, on window visibility change. First I'm trying to get the activity. So as we are trying to use visibility things as a criteria, so I'm trying to use this. So if my visibility is gone, so I'm just trying to make it as a portrait, and if my visibility is visible, then I'm trying to have the logic. So this is similar to whatever we have written in iOS. So we are doing the same. So let's try to specify the renderer. So assembly, export renderer, and the type of content page, type of, so the main page renderer. So let's resolve this. That's it. So there are no specific tricks as of now for Android because it works as is. So, so, so it deployed the application into the Android emulator. So as you see, like in iOS, we actually oriented the device so that it actually behaves the landscape orientation. So in Android, if I just click on the pop-up, so it by default it actually opens your page in landscape. So this is how the behavior works in Android. So if I click on this, I'm sorry for that lag, I'll just try to open it again. So if I just click on that, my page is back to the portrait. So I think there is some problem today related to the emulator. So it's trying to have some lag, but I'll try to attach the sample with this video in the description so that you can just try to check that in your emulators. So this is how the behavior works. So the default page will be of portrait, and whatever that page that we have derived, the pop-up, that will be of type landscape. So this is how we can just try to simulate or try to manipulate the orientation logic for certain pages in our Xamarin Forms applications. So hope you just got a basic idea. If you have any queries or concerns or issues, you can just post that in the discussion tab. So I'll try to answer those. And if you like the video, please do subscribe and like my video. And thank you so much. I'll come up with one more video in the coming days. Thank you.